Every day in the last 10 days, I have been asking myself, are you ready to die? So I thought I'd start with some background to this question. Ever since my first retreat with Venerable Children, way back in 1998, this is when I first encountered her unpacking the Lam Rim, and of course, death and impermanence was one of those topics. And having not had an experience before of the Dharma, I was completely blown away by that topic. I wasn't freaked out by it. I actually felt relief that there was a place where, you could talk about and think about death and really meditate on these points so you could get prepared rather than just, I don't know what I was going to do in the past, probably pray to the Blessed Virgin Mary, because that was my upbringing. I'm sure that would have helped. But this really got my attention. And at that time, in 1998, at the end of the retreat, when I got back home, I decided that because the topic of the time of death is uncertain was really not so present in my mind, I thought, I think I'll start reading obituary columns every day, which I started doing, and I haven't stopped. And so I can tell you all kinds of great stories about the way people die and how they die. And it has had some impact in my mind. And then since then, of course, friends have died, relatives have died, my parents died, colleagues have died. In 1999, the year later, I almost died of scarlet fever. And you would think that this topic would have gotten deeper. But I've discovered recently that it has been very much an intellectual understanding. And then over the years, Venerable Chödrön has continued to unpack Lam Rim texts, and Venerable Kadra has given numerous retreats on peaceful living, peaceful dying. So our exposure here to this topic of death and impermanence is really frequent. So, and also we're still processing, at least I am, the passing of Geshe Dadul. And so I really thought, until recently, that I had a deeper understanding of this topic until 10 days ago. So 10 days ago we had Katina, and before the ceremony started, I was running around answering the phone, answering emails, making sure the people in the parking lot knew who was coming and all that kind of stuff. And then the ceremony started, and where I was seated, I couldn't see everyone. And then at the end of the ceremony, I noticed our good friend Mary. But I was running out after the ceremony to go and feed 2 cats in 2 different buildings. But I thought to myself, oh good, Mary's here. I'll have a chance to talk with her a little bit later. And then when I came back from feeding the 2 cats, I noticed that her name tag was on our table. So I thought, oh great, Mary's going to be at my table for lunch and we can have a good time, because Mary is brilliant. She's very funny. She's had so many experiences that she has applied the Dharma to, that her stories are really compelling and inspirational, really. So I was looking forward to this. And as I was sitting down, thinking about all of that and the great food ahead, of course, I saw Mary approaching our table. But I noticed that there was something amiss, because she was squinting a lot and blinking fast, and she had one hand up to her eye, and Venerable Seppo stood up and had some words with her, and immediately Mary is being escorted to the library. And then I see that they round up Venerable Jigme, our nurse practitioner, and Catherine, her best friend, who's a former doctor. And it was pretty clear that something was going on. So within a short period of time, fortunately, the medical folks here called 911, alerted the medical people to come. The thought was that Mary was having a stroke, and the medical people did arrive. They loaded Mary up into the ambulance and took her to Newport, where they did some imaging. And immediately they could see that it was a brain bleed, which is a type of stroke. And they escorted her by ambulance to Spokane. When she got there, the neurology team looked at her and determined that Mary was dying. And they put her on life support because Mary, out of her generosity, of course, had decided on her driver's license she would indicate she'd be an organ donor. So at that point, they put Mary on life support. The very next day, 3 nuns went down and did prayers and practices for the family and for Mary. And when when that part of it was over, the medical team took over, and Mary's passing resulted in her saving 3 lives with her 2 kidneys and 1 liver. So that experience really shook me in a way that I've never been shaken before, but not in a bad shaking way. It was this huge wake-up call. And now when I read Lamrim commentaries since then, the words have a power that have never hit me like this before. So I thought I'd share just 2 passages that are striking me right now. And let's see if this has the same effect for you. It may not have the same effect for you at all. You'll have to find out what is striking for you. In the words of my perfect teacher, the author writes, meditate single-mindedly on death all the time and in every circumstance while standing up, sitting or lying down. Tell yourself, this is my last act in this world, and meditate on it with utter conviction. On your way to wherever you're going, you might say to yourself, maybe I will die there. There's no certainty that I will ever come back. When you set out on a journey or pause to rest, ask yourself, will I die here? Wherever you are, you should wonder if this might be where you die. At night, when you lie down, ask yourself whether you might die in bed during the night, or whether you can be sure that you're going to get up in the morning. When you rise, ask yourself whether you might die sometime during the day, and reflect that there's no certainty at all that you're going to be in bed in the evening. Geshe Sopa, in Volume 1, on the Steps to the Path of Enlightenment, has these words. Death is not, as you mistakenly feel, something far, far away. It will be right in front of you very quickly. Some people find all kinds of reasons why they're not going to die. And they say, like I used to say, I'm young, I'm strong, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, I'm powerful. My parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents lived to be 106. But none of these are reliable evidence that you're going to remain alive. If you constantly think, death is right in front of me, you will feel like an inmate on death row facing execution. Now, he says, thinking about death may make you uncomfortable. It may be unpleasant or even painful, but this small discomfort can eliminate a massive amount of negative thought, a non-virtuous activity. It will lead you to accumulate merit and make preparation for the time of death. If you have prepared for it, when you're dying, you will not beat your chest in desperation. Some people even enjoy their death because they prepared for a better life. Like a little child happily skipping home from school, they are confident about where they're going. They feel that they are exchanging an old, worn-out body, which has become painful and miserable, for a fresh new one. It's like moving to a new and better house. At the time of death, they feel joyful and excited to go. That's how I want to go. So Mary and Geshe Dadul have given us tremendous teachings and these beautiful gifts of the Dharma in the way they left this life. We learned that Mary had the aspiration to die at the Abbey. That aspiration was fulfilled. We also learned that she had the aspiration as a young woman to be a nun. So we're making prayers that Mary comes here. We're going to be on the lookout in about 20 years from now for a very bright, talkative, curious, funny person. And so Mary, may that happen for you. And you know, when you think about it, may our death be an inspiration for someone. Maybe that'll shake someone up so that their practice deepens. Let's do that and practice now. We have to practice the Dharma now.